This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With many countries in the Western world going into new lockdowns, the realization is drawing on the movie industry that theaters won't fully reopen for a long time. 2020 is already a bust, and hopes are starting to fade for next year as well. Studios such as Disney and Universal are increasingly exploring the possibilities of shifting ever more of their high-profile releases, moving them direct to streaming. And recently, we learned that MGM were seriously exploring the viability of licensing their upcoming James Bond movie No Time to Die to a streaming platform. If a deal had gone through, and that could still happen, James Bond might bypass theaters altogether. In this video, we will explore the events that led up to MGM giving serious consideration to skipping a theatrical release for No Time to Die, the unique challenges a mega blockbuster faces in doing so, and why it might still happen. Although things may seem bleak right now, the proverbial sun will shine again, and when it does, there will be a lot of demand for new entertainment. That could represent a great opportunity for anyone either wanting to break into the creative industries, or who are already there but who may want to further hone their skills, or change fields altogether. That's where Skillshare comes into the picture, and they have you covered. Skillshare, this video's sponsor, is an online learning community for creatives where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including film and video production, creative writing, freelance and entrepreneurship, marketing, productions, freelancing, and a whole range of other topics. Whether you are already a working creative, a dabbler, or just a curious lifelong learner, Skillshare has classes to fit your skill level and your schedule, as classes are under 60 minutes. They include a combination of video lessons and a class project, enabling you to quickly acquire new skills. This is something we can attest to ourselves. We are frequently complimented on the high production quality of our videos, but if you go back and look at our older catalog, you'll find that always wasn't so. Skillshare's courses in film and video production helped us to up our game from where we were, and no matter where you are, they can do the same for you. Access to Skillshare costs less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, but since they sponsored this video, we naturally have a deal for you. The first 1,000 of our subscribers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of a Skillshare Premium membership so you can explore your creativity. So click the link in the description to sign up while we get back to exploring the scale of the changes happening right now. As theaters began closing their doors in early spring, studios responded by eventually pushing back all of their high-profile releases. One of the first of which, though not the only one, was the latest James Bond film, No Time to Die. The film had seen its share of behind-the-scenes trouble and had its initial release date pushed back from November of 2019 to April of 2020. However, just as the global pandemic started to impact society as a whole, that date was pushed back yet again to November of 2020. Bond, however, wasn't the only film that was impacted by the circumstances. Marvel's Black Widow was also delayed, as was Wonder Woman 1984 from Warner Bros., and Sony Spider-Man-centric Morbius as well as the Venom sequel were among the many movies pushed back. With theaters locked down, studios began to explore their options. The first of which was Universal, which moved their Trolls sequel, Trolls World Tour, to streaming over the Easter holiday. This did not go unnoticed, as AMC Theaters threatened not to display any future Universal releases, and National Association of Theater Owners CEO John Fithian stated that exhibitors will not forget this. Ominous words. However, as the pandemic continued to rage, the implied threat seemed impotent. Warner Bros. Would eventually crack and move their family-oriented feature Scoob to streaming. Soon after, Disney would follow suit, with Artemis Fowl and Mulan, which is a story we will explore in further detail in a future video. United Artists made Bill and Ted Face the Music available the same day on streaming as it did in theaters. However, the big tentpole blockbusters that were simply too expensive to dump straight to streaming were still held back. For a while. It would be Paramount, who are notoriously cash-strapped, that would eventually give in. The Eddie Murphy film Coming to America 2, which had been in the works on and off for a number of years, was sold to Amazon Studios for approximately $125 million. At this price point, Paramount saw their expenses covered and got a nice little profit on top, though the operating word here is little. Paramount earned much less by selling the movie to Amazon than they would have on a modestly successful theatrical release, but they also did not incur any losses, which is something they would have done if they had released the movie in theaters as planned, seeing as few theaters are open and few audiences are actually going to them. The Christopher Nolan movie Tenet was the canary in the coal mine, which proved that to the industry. Since no one can say when audiences will not just be able to, but will actually want to return to theaters in sufficient numbers to make a theatrical release profitable, selling to Amazon was in effect a way of managing risk. Coming to America 2 was not the only film acquired by Amazon. The company and the head of Amazon Studios, Jennifer Salk, had been on a spending spree, buying the rights to movies such as One Night in Miami, the Tom Clancy adaptation Without Remorse, starring Michael B. Jordan, and the sequel to Sacha Baron Cohen's film Borat. With the closure of theaters and many parts of the world re-entering lockdown, Amazon seems to be making moves to cement its place as a major player in Hollywood. But movies like Coming to America and Borat were obviously made on a budget, and streamers like Amazon and Netflix can acquire them at a sensible cost, which would allow them to profit on them too. The mega blockbusters, however, are a different matter. So far, they have just been pushed back in the hope that normality will resume. As an indication of when that might be, many in the industry were looking to see how the next canary in the coal mine would fare, namely a suave double agent with a license to kill. The aforementioned James Bond film No Time to Die had been pushed back from April of 2020 to November of 2020. Theater chains such as Regal were pinning their hopes on a resurgence after the latest Bond movie was to be released in November. However, on October 3rd, news came down that the release of the latest 007 film was to be delayed again, this time until April of 2021. One day later, on the 4th, it was reported that in light of the latest delay of No Time to Die, Regal cinemas would remain closed for the foreseeable future. This would affect all 536 of its US cinemas and 127 of its UK Picture House and Cineworld locations. Over 45,000 employees would be affected by the move. In light of that and renewed lockdowns around the world, even the new release date of April of 2021 started looking unlikely. Now, that poses a problem because mega-budget blockbusters like James Bond are made with lent money, and those loans have to be repaid. There is a limit to how long these movies can be pushed back before their respective distributors and production companies will have to start exploring the viability of other options. On October 23rd, Bloomberg News reported that new players had entered the Bond sweepstakes. According to Bloomberg, Apple and Netflix were in discussions about taking Bond directly to streaming. Amazon Studios were reportedly not in negotiations. MGM declined to comment on the story for Bloomberg. However, they said rather tersely that the film was not for sale. One day later, on the 24th, Variety claimed that MGM, having lost between $30 and $50 million, said the asking price for No Time to Die was upwards of $600 million, a price tag which was apparently way too much for both Apple and Netflix. This illustrates one of the major problems facing every company that has mega-budget blockbusters pushed back and are still awaiting a theatrical release. These movies were scaled and budgeted under the assumption that they would gross upwards of $1 billion at the worldwide box office. They would both break even and profit at the box office, meaning all ancillary revenue like from home media sales and broadcast rights would be gravy on the side. But take that box office gross away, and there is precedent for just one movie taking down an entire company. For MGM, the reported asking price of around $600 million tells us that is the price point where MGM breaks even and makes a tiny little profit on the side. The problem is, that price point is so high that neither Netflix nor Apple would ever profit from it. On the contrary, agreeing to that price would net them a loss of multiple hundreds of millions of dollars. The simple fact of the matter is that mega-budget blockbusters like No Time to Die cannot break even, let alone profit without a theatrical release. You would think that alone would complicate a sale to a streamer, but as we said, that was but one of the problems. There are further complicating issues on top of that. For one thing, the rights to the James Bond movies are not exactly cut and dry. Eon, Everything or Nothing Entertainment, which is owned by Barbara Broccoli, the daughter of the late Albert R. Broccoli, and her stepbrother Michael Wilson, have a partnership with MGM, who in turn also partnered with Annapurna to distribute the Bond films in the US. Universal Studios distributes the Bond movies internationally, and now distributes the home video releases with the exception of the 4K releases of Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and Spectre. As Variety points out, Anchorage Capital CEO Kevin Ulrich, who is the majority stakeholder in MGM, would most likely have to be the point man for a sale of this magnitude. There are also the added complications of Universal Studios being the rights holder for home media distribution. Those rights would most likely have to be bought out as well, as Universal is now a part of NBC Comcast, who control a major part of the video-on-demand sales through their US cable systems. No Time to Die would not be something they would just willingly let go, at least not easily. And yet, there is the added wrinkle of various licensing deals, and this is not unique to just MGM. For those who may not pay attention to such things, there is a reason why Bond drives Aston Martin cars, drinks Smirnoff vodka and Heineken beer, wears Tom Ford suits, flies on Virgin Airlines, uses Sony Vaio computers, is outfitted with Omega watches, and rides a Triumph motorcycle. All of those are not just casually thrown in for the sake of convenience. They are all part of a constructed plan for product placement, which has had a very long history in the Bond movies and in mega-budget blockbusters at large. Those licensing deals to display specific products and services can be contingent upon the movies being released into theaters, as they help to underwrite the cost of the film. If the film were to bypass theaters and move directly to streaming, those contracts could have a veritable wrench thrown into them. As it stands at the time of making this video, No Time to Die is still slated to be released into cinemas. That, however, may change. At some point, the different stakeholders who funded the movie by way of what amount to loans will want to be repaid with interest. When that time comes, they may no longer have the luxury of demanding a price that would allow them to break even and see a profit. They may have to settle for less and deal with the fallout. That talks with streamers already have happened indicates that MGM are less than hopeful about the future prospects of a theatrical release. Depending on how long this situation persists, they may be forced to accept some kind of streaming deal, as the alternative could be even worse. But how much will it cost, and who will ultimately be the ones to pay the price? Let us know what you think, and if you're still looking forward to the latest Bond film, No Time to Die, in the comments. And while you're there, remember to click the link in the description so you too can explore your creativity and be among the 1,000 to get a free trial of a premium Skillshare membership.